We have Western culture, Western science's idea of what's been going on. Prior to that, there were traditions, seemed to be very antiquated traditions, telling a somewhat different story. In fact, one of the common themes in pretty much all the ancient, the sort of Akkadian mythology, the spiritual traditions, and it's still embedded in the more abstracted, the more sort of dogmatic religious traditions, is an idea that at one time in the very distant past we were very different indeed. We perceived ourselves differently. It wasn't just that we behaved differently, we felt that we were very different. Something happened, something changed, and we've begun this process of becoming more primitive. In fact, it crops up in these traditions, and one of the terms that crops up an awful lot is delusion, a slow descent into delusion. And we all, pretty much, I'm sure we all understand what the term delusion means, but it may not help us if we're already in a state of deep delusion. From those same traditions, again, quite a lot of focus on what seem to be very difficult to describe states, what today we call altered states, non-ordinary states of consciousness. And you wind the clock back far enough and it seems, one interpretation could be that we were in these states not just some of the time, not just occasional glimpses in a lifetime, but these were the normal states at one time. We didn't perceive ourselves as separate, and we had a different connection with pretty much everything, where we lived and with each other. And the terms that come out of those traditions aren't, oh, well, it was okay, it wasn't bad. It tends to be things like divine rapture. It wasn't just something you might take or leave. It was a powerfully different state. Coming out of the neurological research in the last 50, 60 years or so, very interesting, bearing in mind I've touched on the sort of delusion. Coming out of the split brain research in particular, it began to be clear that the side of our brain that was perceptually dominant, that was taking the lead in much of our day-to-day function and our thinking, had some very bizarre traits. And there's been PhD papers written to try and explain these traits. And there are several that we'll touch on, but one of them is a high propensity for delusion, self-delusion. So immediately interesting that this is coming out of modern neurological research, and we have these ancient traditions of warning us that we were sliding into all sorts of trouble, more kind of primitive animalistic behavior, more aggressive and deluded. So this stuff actually exists in the modern literature. You don't see it a lot, but it's there. And a lot of people have been studying it, actually trying to explain it in some kind of positive light.